Hello, and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Album of the Week video. This is episode number 225. Today, I am here to spotlight See You in Hell. Not from Grim Reaper, sorry, but from Crossfire. Originally released in 1983 via the legendary cult label Mausoleum Records. So with all that said, let's begin. Not a whole lot of history information, but I'll do my best to deliver you the bullet points. Based out of Aalst, East Flanders, Belgium, Crossfire had its beginnings as a punk band named the Onion Dolls, a direct derivative of the New York Dolls name, with releasing one 7-inch single in 1981 before then seeing a lineup change that would lead into, well, morphing into Crossfire, where the music style would switch over to playing heavy metal that was inspired by the likes of Judas Priest, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Accept, and Saxon. The first lineup for Crossfire consisted of Nero Niklinks on guitar, Mark van Kallenberg on lead guitar, Patrick van Landuzeli on bass, and then Peter de Wint on drums and vocals. With this lineup, they would go on and record a 4-song demo that would be produced by Rave on Records co-founder Jack Husninks, producer of the iconic Merciful Fate EP. This would lead them into being a part of the Metal Clog split record that would have them be featured alongside other Dutch metal bands at the time, Gilgamesh, Impact, and Frankenstein. By the way, thanks to Bip Bop Boom, I do own a copy of the Metal Clogs record. After that release, Nero Nierenkinks would leave the band and soon be replaced by Rudy van de Sype, but the lineup would also see an enhancement. They would gain a new drummer in Christy Brouwer, which would result in Peter de Wint to switching over to just singing. By 1983, Crossfire would then get signed to Mausoleum, which would then have them head into Ace Studios located in Antwerp to record their first full-length album with Roland Beelen. Apparently he would go on to work with another obscure Belgian metal band named Buzzard for their only album titled Gambler, which did get a reissue this year, which I own. As an engineer with Alfie Falkenbeck, Fat Leo Felsenstein, and Stone Holmgren. Holmgren, probably that's probably the best way to pronounce it then, of course, all of them serving as co-producers. 9 songs were recorded at Ace Studios, with one of them being Metal Knives getting cut from the final album. It would eventually make its way onto the Sharpshooter release. Soon, the final set of songs would then be taken over to Rainbow Studios, located in Heist Odeberg, for it to be mixed by Ward Kunski. I hope I pronounced that name correctly, who is best known for working with the Norwegian metal band Arch for their classic debut album, Another Return, also known here in the States as Another Return to Churchill. It would be through this time where Crossfire recorded the song Sounds of War, which Ward would help as an engineer, to be used for the If It's Loud, We're Proud split EP that would have Mausoleum's other house bands included, Walls of Hell, which was a medley of Wall of Sound and Ready for Hell, and an early version of Blood on the Chains, and of course Ostrogoth with an alternate version of Ecstasy and Danger. See You in Hell would eventually be released in 1983, and in later years become a cult classic. So, featuring 8 tracks, clocking in at the length of 37 minutes and 29 seconds, these 8 tracks are, of course, beginning with Demon of Evil, Killing a Cop, Magnificent Night, Danger on Earth, Fly High, Lover's Game, Star Child, and then of course ending with the title track. So there you go, folks. There's your 8 tracks. My exposure to Crossfire was in 2010 when discovering the Vibrations of Doom website and its classic album section. Through there is where I discovered Mad Butcher, Axe Switch, Avenger, Heavy Load, Violent Force, Wolfpack, the one who released Total Head Removal, and Bulldozer. But it was through this site where I first sampled Killer and Crossfire. I found out about Ostrogoth through the video game Brutal Legend. You know, the game where Jack Black voices a metalhead who gets sucked into a world where he battles demons and hair metal angels. From there on, I was hooked, and I had to hear the albums. So I started with checking out See You in Hell. This may not be the best album under Crossfire's belt. That title goes to Second Attack. But is it fun? Hell yes. From the opening cut Demon of Evil, which through finding live audience bootleg recordings used to be titled Overkill, you are then thwarted into a headbanging frenzy. From there, you have a decent selection of sharply tasteful barn burners that kind of pushes to being early thrash, though not technically that thrash. But for 1983, given that we only had, Kill 'Em All, Heavy Metal Maniac, and even, of course, later on, the first Slayer album, Show No Mercy, this probably would have passed, but these days might be considered just straight up speed metal to even having some early signs of what would become power metal, if you really think it in that kind of way. With those being Demon of Evil, Magnificent Night, which is kind of proggy, and the title track. Speaking of proggy numbers, there are 2 here, Danger on Earth and Fly High. Both are standard traditional heavy metal, but with some added twists to make them more engaging. They usually end in being fast, raucous riff bangers, obviously influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal. Then there is Star Child, which is more straightforward, being more influenced by Iron Maiden. Then all that is left are the insanely titled Killing a Cop, pretty much beating Body Count's Cop Killer to the punch for metal songs about murdering police officers, and Lover's Game. Both these are prime Judas Priest / Accept influenced rockers. Even with the shocking title of Killing a Cop, it's more tame in its approach. Again, probably might make a fun party song for some anti-police groups that I know of today. Ooh, I went there. Speaking of which, I don't know which member it was or even if it's still true or not, but one of the members apparently went to prison for actually killing a cop. So yeah. Okay. All in all, for what this album is, it's enjoyable. Don't expect anything other than just a good time, enjoyable heavy metal album. So, after this, they would gain plenty of attention in the Netherlands and certain areas of Europe and would play at festivals which would put them on bills with other classic metal bands of that era. This also would lead to recording a follow-up and even recording a live record, which eventually would not be released a few years or so after they had split, with also putting together a record of leftover songs. After that, they would break up, with Peter DeWint joining Ostrogoth for their last full-length album, Feelings of Fury, released in 1987. Most recently, the Crossfire catalog has been reissued and remastered by Patrick W. Engel for Hellion Records, so these albums are still readily available. So there you go. Of course, this has turned 40 years old this year, so I had to find a slot to celebrate this album. So for those of you who are familiar with this album and band, if you have any thoughts, whether they are positive or negative, you can leave them all in the comment section below. But if you haven't, I do recommend their albums. So if you like your metal to be in the vein of Accept, Judas Priest, especially them, and the other new wave or British heavy metal bands, then this should be right up your alley. So with that, this is Heavy Thrash saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.